In the last year or so, wherever we turn, people we know, they all turn to us and say, have you read that book? And that book is Quantum Revelation from Paul Levy. Really, literally, so many people tell us about this book. Some people compared it to the Tao of Physics, to Frijod Capra book, which was historically, for me, was a cornerstone in my understanding and growing on this in the 70s or whatever it was in Italy. And Quantum Revelation is apparently amazing. So we get to meet this, the guy who wrote this book, Paul Levy. Do you want to come on, Paul? And I only met you this morning in the lobby, but now, thanks to Teresa, I got a chance to stare in your eyes for a minute.
Yeah. Totally.
Dude, I love you.
Love you too. Thank you. Awesome.
Wow. Thank you. So I have nothing else to say other than give you the stage and my family, of which you're part of.
Wow.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So, in 1981, I had an experience. I was in deep pain, and I'm not going to go into the story, but how I dealt with the pain was to go inwards and to assume the position of being the witness to my own mind. And after almost a couple of years of doing that intensively, hours and hours a day, something happened. I actually got hit by a bolt of lightning, and I went into an incredibly altered state in which I began to have the recognition that this is a shared collective dream. And to say I was excited, I mean, it was the good news as far as I was concerned. And I was also unprepared for what came my way. And I was so enthusiastic that it kind of got me in trouble. And so that's a whole other story that I won't go into. But here I am, and it's many, many years later, and when I contemplate what I began to tap into, I now am able to articulate it in a whole new way. And over the years, I've been really interested in quantum physics. And I'm completely not a physicist. If I open up a physics book and there's math and equations, I shut it. That's not my thing. But over time, I began to have the realization that what quantum physics was describing, it totally mapped on to the experience that I had begun to have. And so over the course of a number of years, I deepened my study of quantum physics. Now, the thing to understand, or it's kind of a funny word because there's no one who really understands quantum physics, or at least that's what all the quantum physicists are saying. But it's a controversial field, and there's this place where everyone agrees. I've never found any physicist who doesn't agree. And then there's a place where they don't agree, and everybody is fighting, trying to understand what does it mean, what does quantum physics actually mean, and what is it showing us. And where everybody agrees is that quantum physics is the greatest discovery ever in all of history in the realm of science. That there's no debate about. What the debate about is what is it showing us. And now, the founding fathers of quantum physics, just to invoke one, Albert Einstein, who is one of the founding fathers, he said that quantum physics is so uncommonly important, it should be everyone's concern, okay? Now, quantum physics is not just this esoteric thing, and, just in essence, physicists were trying to understand what is the building block of this universe, what are the microstructure of the physical world. Now, going back to Einstein, even though he was one of the discoverers of quantum physics, it so freaked him out, he could never embrace it. He could never get his mind around what it was showing us. He said if quantum physics is true, and it's never been proven to not be true, then science is over. So now, what quantum physics, in essence, has done, before quantum physics came online or in the field a century ago, pre-quantum physics, Newtonian physics thought that this universe existed objectively as an object, and it was separate from us, who were the observers, and we were just trying to understand what is the dynamic, what is the makeup of this objective universe. And quantum physics comes along, and it empirically has proven again and again that the universe that classical physics was studying, i.e. an objective universe, didn't even exist, that there was no such thing. And to actually say a little bit more about that, quantum physics has shown that the act of observing the universe actually influences and affects the universe observed. And if I could just say, that's just like a dream. Okay? Now, that's the rabbit hole that I go down through in my book. The observer effect is what it's called. And the implications are mind-blowing, because it's basically pointing out that the act of observation is creative. And it's actually showing us that we have this unimaginable, up until this moment, creative power at our disposal that we've always had, but because we've been unconscious of it, it gets turned against us in a way that's killing us. That's evidenced by what's happening in the world today. So quantum physics is revealing to us, is showing us that this experience that we're all collectively sharing is of the nature of a dream, is a collective dream that we are dreaming up together while being dreamed up by the dream in a synchronistic feedback loop. And quantum physics is not only pointing at the dreamlike nature, it's an expression of the very dream that it's revealing to us, okay? Now, I want to take a step back because in my book, I actually point out something. So I've been doing Tibetan Buddhist practice for a number of years. And in the tradition that I do practice, there's this thing called Terma. And Terma actually translates as a hidden treasure. And a lot of spiritual traditions have the idea or are actually come about because of some sort of something gets, found, discovered, this sacred object, these sacred teachings. So it's not just Tibetan Buddhism, but Tibetan Buddhism has so unbelievably unfolded this hidden treasure tradition. And it's the way the tradition actually keeps itself fresh and it propagates itself, where all of a sudden, right at the moment in time when the particular terma or hidden treasure or a sacred teaching is needed, because the people have gotten maybe off balance or one-sided or they've fallen asleep, right at that moment in time, the terma is discovered, okay? And one way to think about the terma, it's like this vitamin, this multi-dimensional vitamin that the universe has dreamed up to bring us back to who we are, to help us to awaken to who we are. And the thing which is important to understand about the Terma, the hidden treasure tradition, and you'll see why I'm talking about this when I connect it to quantum physics, is that the hidden treasure, the Terma, it's a group, one person is sort of destined to discover it, but it's a collective dreaming process. The whole community is dreaming it up. And it's exactly like when we go to sleep at night and we have a dream at night. Well, that dream, that's the manifestation of the unconscious, and the unconscious, it actually compensates a one-sidedness. When somebody gets one-sided or off balance, the dream will send symbols, which is the language of dreaming, to bring that person back into balance. That one person, what I'm talking about, Terma, is that think that collectively, not just an individual person, but a community or a species. Now, interestingly, in my study of quantum physics, again and again, they would say that quantum physics is a symbolic procedure. And just once again, symbols are the language of dreams. Now, how come I'm talking about Terma and hidden treasure tradition? So I have no authorization to, I'm not any enlightened person at all. So I have no authorization to, say, to authorize that's a Terma, that's a hidden treasure, or to discover one myself. But I know about Terma. I have articles that I've written about it. It's the lineage I do practice to for years and years. And I know, just as a curious person, when these amazing quantum physicists were saying what a tragedy it is that that not more people understand the mind-blowing profundity of quantum physics. And I just want to give a personal commentary. To me, it's like taking this psychedelic, and it just keeps on coming on the more you actually contemplate it. But I'm talking about contemplating it in a particular way. And that way that I'm offering today is that this is my own personal opinion, I am absolutely convinced that quantum physics is a modern day Terma, a hidden treasure that we as a species have dreamed up into the world and into our minds so as to reflect back to us our incredible intrinsic creative power to moment by moment create our experience of ourselves and our experience of the world. Okay? And so, Terma, hidden treasures, they're meant to be shared. That's their nature. And, an example of a Terma, the Tibetan Book of the Dead. The author was Padmasambhava, then centuries later somebody discovered it. And sometimes the person who's destined to find a Terma will see a syllable in their mind or on a page, and that syllable will make them remember, and out will come 20 volumes of text that have been encoded in their unconscious, that seeing of the syllable will help them to remember. And how come I say that is because this being a collective dream, it's similar when you have a night dream. All of a sudden something will happen in the night dream and it'll stimulate you, it'll help you to remember. A lucidity stimulator is what I call it. And it'll help you to remember, oh yeah, the nature of my situation, I'm dreaming. And then you have this lucid dream. Well, so these hidden treasures are encoded in the fabric of the universe, in all different channels. And I'm just pointing out that when you look at what quantum physics is revealing to us, it's this revelation. It's a revelation of the dreamlike nature. It's a revelation of who we are, of our incredible intrinsic creative power. That when you see that, what it does, it unlocks the most incredible creativity that is our nature. And that's what quantum physics, so here it is, this Terma, or whatever word you would call it, is actually coming through the wisdom tradition of science in modern times, which is, science is the wisdom tradition of present day. And what I'm trying to point at, this is so, there are times I'll give talks about this and I'll start crying. And hopefully that won't happen today. But, and why I thought about why that is, and it's because this is so profoundly important because, for example, I wrote a book before the quantum physics book about the madness, the collective madness that our species had fallen into, and we're enacting all over the globe. And we're destroying ourselves. We're enacting collective suicide. And the essence of this collective madness, I point out, is to be found within the mind. And interestingly, the revelations of quantum physics has already changed the course of history with all the technology and the computers on and on. And these physicists are saying that's the low-hanging fruit. That's less than 1% of the benefit that is being offered to us by quantum physics, that the real benefit is in our mind of how it's going to expand our consciousness. Because in quantum physics, consciousness intruded into the physics lab. This isn't what physicists had signed up for, and they couldn't make it go away. Okay? So going back to that collective madness, the collective madness in essence, like I talk about in my previous work, in essence, it's that we then project onto the waking inkblot. Think about a dream. A dream is an inkblot onto the waking inkblot of our lives. And then the waking inkblot just reflects back our perception in a way that makes us think it's objectively out there, separate from us. And then we react to that projection like this kitten looking in, seeing her reflections in the mirror, just endlessly reacting to the reflections, which gets reflected back ad infinitum. It's an infinitely self-generating feedback loop whose source is our own mind. That's the essence of the madness, and I talk about that, like I say, in other books, that our species is enacting, has fallen into. And quantum physics is the medicine for that madness. Because quantum physics is showing us, when you look at it in a certain way, that we ourselves, by the way we set up our experiment, the questions we ask, how we interpret the data, that's determining the answers we get back. Okay? So quantum physics is showing us that there's nothing, what we thought of as being objective is just that, a thought. There's nothing objective out there at all, separate from the consciousness that's observing it. Now, to understand this even more deeply, just imagine you're in a dream, right? And you're holding a viewpoint in a dream. What is a dream but your own reflection? It's your mind projected out and reflecting back itself to itself through you, okay? You hold a viewpoint, the dream has no choice but to just reflect back and offer you all the evidence of the seeming objective truth of your viewpoint. And once that happens, then you become even more convinced and more entrenched in that viewpoint, thinking, well, I'm just seeing what's actually there, what's actually objective. And the more you hold that viewpoint, the more the dream will offer you evidence to prove that. And what's happening is that you've entranced yourself, you've hypnotized yourselves by the creative genius of your own power to invoke and call forth your experience of reality and of yourself. See, that's what quantum physics is offering us. It's showing us the collective genius, and particularly when we connect with other people who are also awakening to the dreamlike nature and their incredible creative power and becoming quantum activists, we can connect with each other and we can change the dream, the waking dream. And that's not New Age woo-woo. That's the nature of our situation. That's what's being offered to us and shown to us by quantum physics. Okay? Now, just to close, one of the things, so going back to that experience I had in 1981, it was very, it really threw me for a loop because stuff that I had been programmed to think of as being impossible was happening. Stuff that could only happen in a dream was happening. And particularly when I was around, I was getting to meet my teachers. It was like when I was in their field, the whole space-time continuum would shift and these impossible events would happen. Now, quantum physics is expanding the realm of the possible in the sense that you have a quantum entity. Before it's observed, it exists in a state of potentiality. Any and every possible state it could ever exist, it exists in potential. You observe it, that potentiality all of a sudden actualizes into one actual manifestation. All the other possibilities vaporize as if they never existed. But the point is that even if one of those possibilities, even if it was highly ridiculously unlikely, to quote a quantum physicist, that means it could manifest this moment. Which is to say that if we're taking in the world events and getting depressed and feeling despair and looking through a pessimistic filter, we're then, because of the dreamlike nature, going to invoke all the evidence we need to confirm the objective truth of our viewpoint, and then we're part of the problem. Okay? If we're not dreaming up the highest possibility that we as a species could be that highly ridiculously potentiality, we as a species could actually awaken, that maybe you right now, seeing your shadow, seeing the dreamlike nature, expanding your consciousness just a bit, could be the very, the 100th monkey effect that catalyzes a global awakening throughout all universes. Okay? Now, quantum physics it's a Terma, but it's a special type of Terma. It's a special type of hidden treasure in that it's a participatory Terma. We have to actually recognize what it's showing us, because quantum physics is showing us this is a participatory universe. So this is a participatory Terma. We have to actually recognize what's being revealed, take it in, and then embody it and engage with what we're actually having the realization of. And how this Terma unfolds, whether it will actually wake our species or not, is in potential, in typical quantum style. Because quantum physics is saying this universe isn't determinate, that every moment we can't predict the future. No, it's indeterminate, it's in potential, and we ourselves are the dreamer, okay? And that's what quantum physics is showing us, that when we have that recognition and connect with each other, we can really change the world. So thank you.
I love it. Quantum activism. I love it. I didn't expect that. Quantum activist. Wow, fabulous.